Hello, welcome to our channel, where we set out to discuss great works of literature.
While dressed in elegant clothing because
Why the hell not? So today we'll be discussing a particular favorite of mine, The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Um, there we are. A beautiful little edition here. So many of you might be already familiar with the story. Actually, there's a lot of adaptations. There was a musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber. There was a scary silent black and white silent film.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, and there was also a movie as well with
Yeah.
Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many of you, of course, I'm sure have seen at least a few of those, or at least somewhat familiar with the plot. But the actual book itself is a little bit of has a little bit of a twist. A few things where there's a departure. So let's just go to a little biographical note here on Gaston Leroux. He was born in Paris in 1868. He died in 1927. He developed a passion for fishing and sailing, and he qualified as a lawyer. But then he decided to leave law and to become a writer. And he was also a journalist for quite a long time. So that does kind of influence the way the story is written. It does have like a journalistic flair to it, detective flair to the story. He was influenced by Sherlock Holmes' character and Dupin, who is one of the first detectives, and that was written by Edgar Allan Poe. So there's a lot of influential sort of mystery writers on his work. So,
in my personal opinion, he doesn't really write like a lawyer, unlike Henry James in some of his novels. He does write very complex, very much almost as if he's
in a statute.
Yeah, almost as if he's in a court.
Yeah.
A court, trying to argue something. Whereas I found very simply written, beautifully written, really easy to follow, fast paced.
Fast paced.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I found that a very good quality of this book, and it's awfully short though. It's not particularly long, so you can literally read this in one sitting if you so wished.
Yeah.
But I think you and I wanted to savor the experience, and so we took a few days. Yeah.
And I do love both the musical and the book. Like, we saw the musical live in the Boston Opera House, and it's very fitting. Like, even the way he writes, it's almost as if it's designed to go into an opera itself or a musical, right? Just the way he describes things. But I do find it quite different in the way it's presented, because it is, like Sean said, more of a mystery, more of a detective type of ambiance to it. Whereas obviously the musical is very much a musical, love story, passion. It was different. What did you think about the characters? And
I found the characters, they were rather simple. They were like set pieces, so they kind of they all had their stock motivations, I guess, what you would expect, and they kind of logically moved through the story, propelled it forward. But there wasn't any sort of real depth to the characters. I didn't feel any sort of it wasn't obviously a psychological study of the characters.
Yeah,
so
they weren't very relatable, were they? One was like almost psychopathic person, murder, and then the other one was this like very angelic, innocent, easily influenced character. I liked her character, but it was very plain, kind of predictable. Right?
Yeah, it's like high drama, I guess. You kind of get caricatures of, it's kind of caricatures of people, but yeah, and I think maybe that wasn't his intention. Obviously, it was more on the thriller suspense side of things. So, I mean, if you probably get a modern book that has the same sort of genre, it's probably they might develop a little bit more. But
so we learn a little bit more about Christine Daae's attachment to her father, and some of the promises that were made on her father's like deathbed about the music of angel of music, sorry. And that makes more sense why she's so attached to Eric's character. Like, you don't really understand it quite as much in the musical, so I found that insightful. And then you also learn more about Eric and another character who doesn't exist in the musical.
Which is surprising. So the Persian, I found him the most interesting character, it seems. Like, he had such a great backstory, and he definitely helped develop the Phantom's backstory as well. And I know they did a little bit in the musical and the movie. They did talk about the gypsy band and the circus and how he was kind of used for his sort of ugly features as a performer or a sideshow, I guess. But there was a whole part of sort of the Shah, like the Prince of Persia, where Eric ended up being like an architect for him and helped create his palace of, illusion and hidden traps, and this Persian character is also privy to that history of Eric, so he was involved in some way there, and he knows about Eric. He knows the things that he can do, and really without the Persians' influence or help, one of the characters, the love interest of Christine Daae, I think he would have been pretty ineffectual. I think he would have died.
Yeah. Of love. It was kind of.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't going to die of love, but like there's a torture chamber.
Becoming torture.
Yeah, he was.
But then again, that just shows kind of the darkness of Eric's character that wasn't really shown in the movie or musical at all. Like he is quite a sadistic character. He had a torture chamber where he was definitely planning on murdering people in that, which
pretty
is
horrific ways.
Is kind of scary.
Yeah, really quite horrific ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it did make, I don't know if you found this, but I found it a lot harder to pity him. I actually kind of like the rendition or change in the character in the musical, because you have this kind of conflicting feeling between the character. You're like, well, Christine Daae doesn't love him and feels trapped, but he is kind of this kitty character who is like you can pity him quite easily, right? Because he was this tortured soul,
this unrequited love,
and like and not just that, like an abandoned type of feeling. You couldn't help but have pity, but in this he has that element still, right? That's still there, but he also has a much darker nature with capacity to both torture less unforgivingly without any remorse,
less redeemable.
It made it harder to empathize with that character. And then the other character, the main character,
well, we were discussing how we feel that one of the sort of the unspoken characters in the background is the opera house itself, because really this book would not have been having the same effect that it has if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for the setting. So the setting it did feel like another character, and I don't know if you've seen pictures, but we ended up looking. I mean, we were familiar with pictures of the Opera Garnier before, but from this I learned that there's 17 stories. There's an underground reservoir, also like pretty much like a lake, underneath the opera house itself.
Which is true, right?
Which is
we're reading the
true.
book and we're like, you think it's a little far-fetched, right? But it's like, no, it's actually real.
And
it's a lake.
And like the immensity of this building was like over 100 different sort of powder rooms and places for the actors to stay. They can fit a whole galleon ship in like the storage area. There's just some like scaffolds and sort of the ladders and the ropes and the pulleys. It's like a huge labyrinth, and it was really
vital.
It's very vital. But it's also interesting because it gives you the sense of that sort of like you can see hidden depths. You can see places where you can get lost or someone can go missing and never return again. So there is this sense of darkness and foreboding in this. It definitely was a character.
Yeah, and I think it helped with the movement of the story. Like, you can literally feel yourself with the imagery he provokes, having really studied this building quite intensely. You can feel yourself moving through each room, and you return to those rooms, and it's described in the exact same way of returning there. So it makes the story easier to imagine. Because it's consistent and just so descriptive.
I like stories like that.
Where
you revisit certain rooms.
And at first we're like, is it really Eric who's like kind of this possessed madman, or is it the building itself possessing him in its own kind of character way? I mean, things like the voices that were happening. At first we thought it was Eric who was creating this laughter, which was prominent throughout the entire novel. Where like he makes people laugh, and so we're like, is there some sort of sorcery happening here,
Yeah.
or like mind control,
or even like some sort of gas that's being emitted. That's
yeah,
kind of like,
and then you realize later on that Eric's a ventriloquist.
ventriloquist.
I always
It's
say
the
it
hardest,
wrong.
the hardest word.
Ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And so in combination with the way the building is created, he can make his voice move to different areas of the room and create that sense of laughter and create this drama and sense of a ghost illusion being there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
No, that was a very interesting part to it.
Yeah. And what else did you feel about, like, any similarities between anything else you've read, or?
Well, I think you were suggesting what was it, The Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, we read that in the afterward.
Yeah.
That they think it's a theory that maybe he got some inspiration from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? Because again, similar qualities where Eric is disfigured and kind of grotesque in appearance, and then he falls in love with this beautiful woman, Esmeralda, so similar pattern there. And then they think maybe the author got its inspiration as well from the idea of having the entire story being surrounded by an iconic place, right? Structure.
Like
so
Notre Dame,
yeah.
Perhaps,
But it is convincing in the beginning, isn't it, that there is something supernatural, and even till the end you wonder if there is still a dark possession, even if it's you know that it's kind of trick of the eye, and he's playing either the opera house itself is playing Eric or Eric's playing it. You do feel this sense of kind of, it doesn't take away from that illusion of something kind of creepy, right?
Yeah. This uncanny sense that there's some presence in the opera house. Yeah. Unlike
Dracula, whereas Dracula, it's like always throughout supernatural character. It's later revealed, and I guess there's a worry that might take away from the novel to have that veil removed of it being totally supernatural. I guess there was a fear that people wouldn't take it seriously after that, but in truth, I think the way he delivered it as a detective story, as Eric being this dark, malicious character, possessive character, really did still give you quite a creepy, eerie feeling.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
It was different enough from the musical that I still felt like, what is going to happen? There's still enough similarity that you really could still watch the movie and really enjoy it and have a very similar storyline, but there's enough differences in it, right?
Yeah.
Like the Persian character and
the
capacity of Eric's evil was definitely greater.
Yeah, definitely. It was hard to sympathize with his plight.
Yeah.
In the end,
yeah.
And it also made sense. The one thing in the story, not in the story, but in the play, the musical, and the movie, they always say, "Oh, keep your hand at the level of your eye," right? And that was always a mystery to me. Like, I never understood why he had to do that. Like, why that command? And it's explained in the book. So and once again, it's said by the Persian. So again, an integral character there. Yeah,
and the Persian is the one who knows all the kind of deception of Eric, right? Did you already talk about that?
No, I just touched upon it.
Yeah, but that's also because, again, like Christine Daae's character, knowing more about her father, you learn more about Eric's character background, right? Yeah. And the Persian's the only one who knows of that kind of secret.
Yeah, I thought the Persian was pretty cool.
He's so cool.
Yeah,
he's pretty, he's really, like, truly the hero.
Yeah, I'd say
Wouldn't
so.
You say?
Yeah, without him, I think, it would not have had the outcome it did.
Yeah.
Very good. Did you want to rate it?
Okay, I'll rate it. I'll give you.
I'm going to rate it 4.5.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to give it 4.6 too.
Oh, wow. She beat me again. So, definitely recommend it. One thing I did want to mention was that, I don't know why, maybe it's from the movie, with the snow on the cemetery.
Since this is our last holiday.
Yeah, I always associate the Phantom of the Opera wintertime and snow and the kind of like this particular season we're in, Christmas season, festivities.
Charles Dickens.
Well, it's like the balls.
Christmas Carol.
Maybe Christmas Carol, but
The
like
ghosts.
but there's also like you can imagine balls would probably also be happening around this time, and everyone wrapped in their furs and men in like white tie. So it always evokes that sort of wintry feel for me. And so we thought it would be appropriate around this time of the year to cover this particular book. But I'm glad we finally read the original after having watched all the adaptations.
It's well worth the read, trust me.
Yeah. It's a fun read.
One.
If you've read Phantom of the Opera, or if you prefer any of the other adaptations to it, please definitely let us know. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you in 2021. Bye for now.
Bye.